Hi, so I just wanted to share my story of my experience with gestational trophoblastic neoplasia or gestational choriocarcinoma. They're kind of the same thing. Um, I wanted to share my story because when I was first diagnosed, um, it's a really rare cancer, so there wasn't really anybody for me to um, confide in or, get that support. And so I turned to YouTube, um, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos of people that have had experience with this, and I um, kind of got comfort from their stories. So I wanted to share mine. So the start of my story, um, me and my husband have three healthy kids, um, and we decided that we wanted to have one more. So we got pregnant in December of 2020, and um, right away, the pregnancy seemed different than my other pregnancies. I was a lot more sick. Um, I was a lot more tired, and I kind of just figured that I was getting older, and every pregnancy is different. So I kind of just chalked it up to that. Um, at 9 weeks, we found out that we were having a girl. We did the sneak peek gender test, which you basically just send in a sample of blood, and we found out we were having a girl. So we were really excited about that. At 10 weeks, I had my first OB appointment, and um, everything looked great. The baby was growing, was the right size, the heartbeat was great. Um, so yeah, we were excited that we were having another healthy baby. At 14 weeks, I went in for another appointment, just a routine appointment, and they found that the baby didn't have a heartbeat anymore. So that was obviously devastating. So that night I had a DNC done, and after that, after when I was in recovery, the OB called my husband and said, I think that your wife had a partial molar pregnancy because there was so much placental tissue during the DNC. So they were going to send it off to pathology, and um, the pathology came back that it was just a normal pregnancy. There was no molar tissue. It was just a healthy pregnancy. So we were happy about that because molar pregnancies have a higher chance of turning into this cancer. Um, so we were relieved. We were like, oh, it's just a normal miscarriage, and um, everything will be fine. The hardest part is over. So, 2 weeks after my DNC, I went to see my OB just for she just wanted to, check up on me and make sure that I was recovering from the DNC nicely. And um, at that point, so this is where it gets a little TMI. So if you don't want to hear those details, I mean, it's not too bad, but for some people it might be. Um, so at 2 weeks, I went and she asked if I was still having some bleeding, and I said that I was, but it was just a little bit, and I thought that it would end soon. And so she was like, okay, well, you can bleed up to 4 weeks, and that's totally normal. Um, so yeah, let us know if it goes on longer. So um, after that appointment, for the next couple of weeks, my bleeding started to increase um, significantly. I started bleeding a lot. And I was like, oh, I'll just wait till around 6 weeks because I started looking things up. And what I was looking up said that it's okay if you're bleeding up to like 6 weeks. And so I was like, okay, well, I'll just wait till 6 weeks. I don't want to bug anybody, which that's what they're there for. They're your healthcare team. But at that point, I'm like, I don't want to bug anybody. Like, I'll just wait. And so at 5 weeks past my DNC, I started to have a lot of cramping and a lot more bleeding, and I started to pass clots and just, I knew something was not right. So I called my doctor, and she, the person I talked to said, oh, it's probably just your period. Like, it's fine. Um, so I kind of thought that was weird because I never stopped bleeding. So I was kind of like, okay, like, we'll see how it goes. So at 6 weeks, I called back because I was still bleeding, and I'm like, I need to be seen. Like, there is something wrong. And so they got me in pretty quickly. It was probably about a day or two later. The doctor got me in. And the night before my appointment, I started looking up um, like what it could be, like why I was still bleeding. And it seemed like the most likely thing was that there was something still left in my uterus. Like they didn't get everything out during the D&C. Um, but there was also some things that were saying there's this cancer that it could be, but it's super rare. It comes from like molar pregnancies. So I was like, oh, I don't need to worry about that. Like that's not going to be what it is. And so, but it was kind of in the back of my mind still. So I went to that appointment, and my OB came in, and she was like, yeah, like this is not good that you're still bleeding. Like you should not still be bleeding. Um, so it could be um, a hormone thing, or it could be that something's left in your uterus. And so I kind of was just like, yeah, but I was looking online, and there was something about something called gestational choriocarcinoma. I just want to make sure that's on your radar. And she was like, oh yeah, it's very much on my radar. And so I was like, okay, we're on the same page, like we're good. So she started to do an ultrasound, and she first looked at my uterus, and my uterus looked fine. Um, and then she went to my ovaries, and she was like, oh, like that looks kind of weird. So usually like your ovaries are just gonna look like little black circles. Um, However, mine during that ultrasound looked like a bunch of grapes, like a bundle of grapes. And come to find out later, like that means that you have a high level HCG. That's what your ovaries look like when you have a high level of HCG. So, um, anyway, so I think at that point the doctor knew that I had this cancer, but she didn't tell me. She didn't want to scare me. And so she went back to my uterus and was looking around again, and she turned on the blood flow part of the ultrasound that like shows you blood flow. And normally like a normal uterus, you're gonna have like a little bit of like the different colors of the blood flow. But mine, so like around my uterus, there was like a little bit of blood flow, but then there's one spot that had like a ton of blood flow to it. And she was like, yeah, that's not normal. And so I think at this point she obviously knew. She told me, she was like, it could still be like a hormone thing. We're gonna do your blood work. Um, yeah, she didn't tell me that I had cancer, but definitely the way she was talking and the things that she was like saying, I was like, she definitely thinks I have this. Um, and so they did the blood work, and I left, and I got in my car, and I immediately started crying. And I called my husband, and I was just like, I think I have cancer. And if you know me, I'm a hypochondriac, and I'm just really paranoid about cancer in general. So I don't know if he really believed me. I think he just thought I might be being a little dramatic. Um, and so I immediately left and went and got an Hcg test, or a pregnancy test. And because this cancer, if you do have this cancer, and my doctor had explained this to me, if you do have this cancer, your Hcg is going to be elevated because your body still kind of thinks you're pregnant. And so I immediately went and got a pregnancy test. And I went to the store's bathroom, and I took it, and it came back positive immediately. And it was a super dark line. So at that point, I'm like, I have this cancer. But I got a call from my doctor, I think either later that day or the next day, telling me that my HCG was like a little bit above 2200, and it should be below 5. So she wanted me to come back the next day and get another blood draw to see if it was going up or down. And so they did another blood draw, and my HCG had increased by like 20 points. So it wasn't like a huge increase, but it definitely was increasing. And I'm 6 weeks past pregnancy, so it should be 0 or less than 5. So she was pretty certain that I had this cancer, and so she um, referred me to a gynecologist, and she also ordered a CT scan of my chest and my pelvis to check for any metastases. So I did the CT scans, and those came back. My chest one came back clean. There was no metastases. The only, my pelvic one came back, obviously, that I had a tumor in my uterus that was about 3.6 centimeters. Um, and so that basically confirmed that I had it. Um, and so I went to my gynecologist, I think probably about a week or two later. It was probably like a week later. Um, I went to a gynecologist, and this gynecologist is absolutely amazing. So this is a really rare cancer that a lot of oncologists honestly have never seen. And even now when I go to like different doctor's appointments just for like general things, part of my history is that I had cancer. And when they ask what kind and I tell them, most doctors don't even know like that this cancer exists. So it's super rare. But I was really lucky because my gynecologist actually did her, I think like fellowship at a trophoblastic center, which specializes in this type of cancer. So I felt so safe in her hands and I felt so reassured. And I'm just so grateful that I had her because I feel like she just was so knowledgeable. So went to her and she told me, this cancer isn't one that we can biopsy because it is so vascular that if we tried to biopsy it, like you could hemorrhage, you would need like an emergency hysterectomy. And so this cancer is one that we just kind of do a checklist. And if you fit these checklists, then you probably have this cancer, um, which is like increased Hcg levels, bleeding, things like that. And I can't remember obviously all the things that are on this checklist, but um, she was like, yeah, you have this. And so I met with my medical oncologist um, like the following week, I think, and um, he consulted with my gynae oncologist and they decided to start me on a chemo called methotrexate. And the way they kind of decide what treatment you get, because there are several options of treatment, is your Figo score. So this type of cancer has a stage, meaning like where it spread, and I was stage 1 because it was confined still to my uterus. But then they also go off of a Figo score, which your Figo score is it puts you in like a low risk category or a high risk category, and that kind of is where your treatment options kind of guides like your treatment. Um, and like 6 and below is low risk, and 7 and above is high risk. And there's different factors for this Figo score. You get different points for different things. So I was stage 1, Figo score 3. So my Figo score was 3 because my pregnancy was not a molar pregnancy. If you have a molar pregnancy, that that does not increase your risk. So you're at 0 points. And then I got another point because my HCG was above 1,000, and then another point because my tumor was bigger than 3 centimeters. So I was still definitely low risk, but still very scary. But they decided to start me on methotrexate. So I did. Um, it was Monday through Friday. I would go to the clinic and I would get an IV of Zofran. Um, it would take like a half an hour for that, and then they would do the methotrexate, which is a push injection, which they just put it in your IV. They just push the medicine directly into your IV. Or if you get a port or whatever. I didn't have to get a port. The methotrexate isn't super damaging to your veins and stuff, so I didn't need a port. They just did an IV every single time. Um, and so yeah, so I'd go Monday through Friday, then I would have that following week off. And they did that until my HCG got below 5. And then I did one more round. So um, they would check my HCG every Monday before I started chemo, but they wouldn't get the results until like the next day. But so I started the first week I started at 871. So my HCG had gone down by itself from like 2200 to 871, which was a good sign. But I called my gynae oncologist at that point because I was like, do I still need treatment? Is it this cancer, or is it just kind of my numbers going down slower? And they said, your number should be 0, so it's still elevated, like you still need chemo. So I started at 871. After the first cycle, um, it went down to 119. After the second cycle, it went down to 25. Um, and then after that, it went to 6, and then down to 3. So I ended up doing 5 cycles. So 10 weeks, 1 week treatment, 1 week off. So 5 weeks of treatment, but 10 weeks total. Um, the methotrexate wasn't too bad. um, I don't know. I've never obviously had any other chemo, but I've heard that it's not as bad as other chemos. The side effects that I had from it were mouth sores. I had horrible mouth sores. After the first cycle, I had really bad mouth sores. After that first cycle, the cycles after that weren't as bad. But yeah, I had mouth sores. I I was nauseous. With each cycle, the nausea got worse. So my last 2 cycles, I was super nauseous and was up a lot of nights throwing up and was pretty sick. Um, but my oncologist gave me medicine to help kind of take care of that. He gave me Zofran, but when that wasn't working, he gave me another medication that I can't remember the name of, unfortunately. Um, but it's a little bit stronger of a nausea medicine, and that did help. So, let's see what other side effects. So I had nausea. Um, this is a little TMI, but I guess good to know if you're going through this treatment. I had um, diarrhea really bad after the treatment. I had really bad stomach cramping. Um, I also got some skin sores um, on my skin that were like blisters, just like in random spots. I think that's basically it. It wasn't that bad. Like I basically would feel like crap. Like my last treatment was Friday, and then I'd feel like crap till about Tuesday of the following week. And I'd feel so tired. I basically slept my whole treatment week. I would go to treatment, come back and sleep because I was so tired. Um, yeah, but yeah, I don't want to like scare anybody. It definitely had side effects, but I mean, you get through it. Um, it's bearable. And for some people, they don't have any side effects. They're totally fine. So it just kind of depends on the person, I guess. I also had a little bit of hair loss. I didn't notice it at the time. Like when I was going through chemo, I didn't notice, and I was paying attention to my hair to see if it was falling out because, sometimes it can on methotrexate. But I didn't notice my hair falling out, but as it's growing back, I can definitely tell that I had lost some hair. Like there's like little baby hairs all around here and like at the top of my head, but I mean, it's not really noticeable. I think what else. So I've been in remission for 7 months. My last treatment was July 13th, I believe. And so 7 months I've been cancer free. So after my numbers went below 5, I did 2 treatments. I think I did 2 treatments, 1 or 2 treatments after my number got to 5. Um, and um, after that, they would do HCG test. I would go and get my blood checked for my HCG, um, and I every other week. And then I think it was after a month. I can't remember now. It was every week for a month, and then after that, it was every other week. I think for 2 more months, and then after that, it went to monthly. Um, I think that's what it was. But so yeah, I'm still going to get monthly checks. up until a year. So in July, I will be done with those HCG checks, which will be so nice. They're kind of a pain in the butt to go get, but um, I know fertility is a big concern for people that have this because obviously you get this cancer from um, trying to have a baby. So a lot of people want to continue having babies after their cancer, um, and for a lot of people that's totally possible. I don't know if we will be having any more babies. This experience has definitely made me grateful for the 3 kids that I have, and I don't really want to rock the boat too much. Um, so I don't know. I don't know if we'll have another baby. Um, they rarely treat this cancer with a hysterectomy. So thankfully, I did not have to get a hysterectomy. Um, and yeah, I'm going to link down below some resources that I found that were so helpful um, for me when I was going through it. One is a Facebook group that has just people that are going through this type of cancer, survivors of this type of cancer. Um, for You can also just go if you've just had a molar pregnancy. So check out that Facebook group. And then a couple of research articles I'll also list down below. Um, and you can kind of, do your research if you want to. Some people prefer not to know. I do. I went a little crazy with the research. So yeah, I'm 7 months out. I don't really have any side effects. Um, I would say for the first like month or two, I felt pretty tired and pretty weak because I had lost so much weight during the treatment because I was having a hard time eating because of the mouth sores and the nausea. So I kind of lost a lot of muscle, so I felt pretty weak, but at this point, I feel completely normal. Um, and I have days where I'm really sad and I struggle mentally sometimes, but that's also slowly getting better as well. So, yeah, I just wanted to share my experience and hopefully, you know, if you're going through this, you can kind of know that you'll get through it because it can be scary, but there is an end for sure. So, um, that's it. Bye.